Hi, so thanks for joining us this afternoon. We're going to be talking a little bit about business continuity. I'm Will Rowley. I'm one of the pre-sales engineers and cloud evangelists at Cloud Direct. So I spend a lot of my time talking to clients about their business continuity plans, and usually quite technology specific. And the purpose of today is really to have a look at kind of business continuity in a wider kind of remit. So we'll just have a quick look at the screen here. Basically, we found that by talking to people about specific requirements, maybe continuity of IT systems or telephony or communications, we're really not addressing the full picture of business continuity. There's several things that really comprise business continuity when you come to think about this for yourselves or your clients. Certainly the cost is going to be number one factor. Effectively, we're talking about insurance. The options can range from the very most resilient, redundant failover systems through to very basic insurances and backups. There's the actual how do you build a plan? What's the right way of going about auditing your business for its business continuity readiness? And then how do cloud solutions play in to provide extra resilience and redundancy? So this is the first in the series of webinars. This is quite a high-level webinar, really, where we're talking about business continuity as a concept and some of the considerations that you must make. But we're going to look a little further in the coming weeks at much more technology-specific and particularly about certain elements of infrastructure where we can provide solutions that really build on your business continuity plans. So, as we look at business continuity as a business, there are a few key factors. We've got communications up there, and for anyone in IT world, this is usually where we think about our connectivity, our broadband lease lines, but we're talking about a wider issue of communications. How do we communicate with our vendors, with our partners and our customers in the time of disaster, and how do we maintain a professional image, and how do we best cope with the disaster? And that leads into the second thing, your image and your brand. How do you portray yourselves in disaster is key. It builds confidence in your customer base, and really business continuity is about maintaining business operations as normal as possible. The operations bracket there really does cover the infrastructure, the IT, the telephony, the fundamental core elements of the infrastructure that drives the business, and how you'll form a business continuity plan around that. And lastly, one that's often overlooked is people. What happens if you lose your senior management team, or they're struck down for an illness for several weeks? Have you got redundancy and plans of succession in place so that you're not having a weak link in terms of your staffing? So with that in mind, we look at how we estimate downtime cost. So there will be an associated cost to any business for whether it's unable to trade for a certain length of time. And depending which sector you're in and which sector your customers are in, that cost is going to be vastly different. We have companies that are logistics companies where they have a very measurable downtime cost if they're not shipping widgets through the door. And consequently, the amount of time that you're offline is going to dramatically increase the cost of the business. So part of when you start to think about business continuity planning is to think about exactly what the cost is for the business as it's down. And that will start to then put in your mind what sort of budgets are in place or could be put in place to be able to put in provision for resiliency and redundancy in the rest of the systems and processes. If we look at some of the disaster recovery and continuity options that are available, it's a pretty straightforward graph. We've got the solution cost. It's going to be very, very high if your time to recovery is very, very short. So if you can't afford to be down for more than 5 minutes, you can have a solution that can do that, but it's going to be exponentially more expensive than if you can afford 5 days or a week without your critical business systems. And if we look at the kinds of resilience that this encompasses, and we call it resilience by default, we're talking about companies that are often geographically dispersed. Think of retail and where you've got more than one office or several hubs, so they're all interdependent and there's no single point of failure in the business. They will usually have replicated IT systems, highly expensive and usually run in-house with expensive communications between each site. And the businesses themselves are intrinsically resilient. And by that, we're generally talking about larger national companies that will have multiple sites and locations. So again, thinking about retail, if you lose a shop on a high street in one city, it's not going to affect the running of a shop on a high street in another city. So they are intrinsically resilient businesses. But the cost of their business continuity is still dramatically more expensive, simply because they have this need to not have downtime because of the value that it's associated with. If we bring ourselves down the graph a bit, resilience by design, we probably fit ourselves into this bracket. We're a business that didn't grow up thinking about business continuity, and we are a single-site business, but we have had to put in processes and systems that give us redundancy and give us a greater amount of resilience should any disaster occur. So we have invested in our processes. We've gone through auditing mechanisms that require us to have business continuity plans in place, as well as technology and infrastructure that is inherently resilient in the way that it's delivered to us. So really, these are businesses that have money to spend, recognize that there's a cost to downtime, but aren't built around resilience inherently like the previous example. And then finally, coming down to the lower end of the spectrum, this is where downtime is much less relevant, but the cost is very minimal, really. So things like business insurance, recovering systems from tape backup or online backup, buying in new hardware, and the SLAs that are delivered by service providers for your broadband and your communications, your ISDN lines. So there's a much less redundancy and availability of those systems and those processes, but the cost is consequently much lower. And somewhere on that graph, yourselves or your customers will fit somewhere, and there will be an amount of value associated with the downtime, and therefore the amount of planning and budget available for disaster recovery and business continuity. So if we have a quick look at some of our continuity solutions, some of the solutions we provide that play well into this arena, communications, and here I am talking about things like telephony, email continuity, and redundant connectivity. So whether that's lease lines that have resistant failover and duality of supply, so we're not going to lose one lease line supplier and lose the other one. The infrastructure itself, so we're looking at servers, whether that's putting them in the hosting centers, which have infinitely more environmental redundancy built in and much more secure locations. The image and the brand, again, this comes into whether it's web hosting and having your site up and there, having your site available and still working because it's in the hosting center, not in your own site where there is much greater environmental threat. And your email, even if it's just to tell customers or tell your key accounts, we are going through some downtime. We have had issues with whatever, a flood, fire, theft, whatever it might be, that you're able to still maintain a professional business as usual environment. And finally, personnel. We don't ourselves get involved with supply personnel, but things that enable personnel to be relocated, so voice over IP telephony, so that users can go home, they can carry on taking calls, calls can be redirected, again, fits in with that image thing, you're not going to lose your telephony. And they can still work from home if they're using things like Office 365 or email that's hosted in the cloud. They're not reliant on on-premise equipment where there's, again, a much greater threat in disaster recovery. So just a little bit about ourselves and why we pitch in as a business continuity supplier. We ourselves are ISO 27001 and 20001 accredited. And for those in the know, there are very stringent auditing processes that dictate how we deliver service. Part of that is about our own business continuity solutions and how we expect to maintain operations should anything occur to our location or our people or our systems. And through going through that process, it's a very, very long-winded process to do. It takes a lot of man-hours of doing the auditing and things. But what it has taught us is there's often a lot more to think about with business continuity than simply I need to make sure my email's okay or that my CRM system's up and running. So we pitch in able to assist on a broad range of business IT services to assist with business continuity planning. And just a bit about our methodology with ITIL accredited and Prince2 project managers as well. So we take a very holistic look at the entire project of putting in a resilient business continuity solution for your IT systems. We're also going to send out some templates after the webinar to anyone who's attended with some guidelines of how you would go about offering an audit to your clients or yourselves, and we can run through how to best kind of start looking at some of the concepts that are here. Similarly, you'll get invites to the subsequent webinars where we'll look at specific technologies and solutions that fit in one of those 4 categories, so the communications, the IT infrastructure, in kind of arenas. So we will go into a bit more of a deep dive technically about how we can offer some solutions that will assist and exactly how they'll work. So in the moment, if you've got any questions, if you'd like to use the box on the right-hand side there on GoToWebinar, I'm happy to answer them now. Alternatively, if you'd like to just have a chat with one of our sales guys, they can talk to you a bit about some of the solutions that we've got on offer. Otherwise, please do come along to the subsequent webinars, and hopefully you'll get something from it and start looking at your business continuity. For now, I'm going to stay on the line for a few minutes to answer any questions. But thank you for your time today, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you. Well, it seems you're all being very quiet and without any questions, but if you do have anything that occurs to you, then please do get in touch. As I said, we'll follow up with the disaster recovery audit template so we can help look at your DR and business continuity provision for yourselves. Otherwise, we look forward to hearing from you on the subsequent webinars. Thank you for your time today.